Welcome to the Homeschool High School podcast, brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. I'm Vicki, and I am so excited. I get to talk to my good friend Karim Morato today. Karim and I go back years, starting at the 2-to-1 conference, and we just became such good buddies there, and it just stuck. Some friendships just stick. So,
Thank you so much.
yeah,
Thank and let me say
yeah.
welcome to everybody in Spanish so they prepare for our podcast. Bienvenidos.
Thank you. So that is exactly what we're talking about today. So we're talking about becoming bilingual. And I was telling Kareem ahead of time, my 4-year-old grandson is bilingual Korean and English. And Kareem has children that are bilingual English and Spanish, right?
Yes, and
Um,
one doing also French.
ah, oui, c'est bon. Yeah.
Oh,
So
merci.
So, Kareem, tell us your story. So, how you ended up in the States studying, and just you kind of introduce us, and then we'll talk about you and your homeschool journey. Like, how did
Yes.
you get connected here?
Okay, thank you so much for having me, Vicky.
Yeah.
And my story is one of those that not a lot of people know about it, because I don't talk about it that much. But I came to this country when I was 18, almost an adult, and I did not speak English. I did not know the language, so I had to start my own journey of learning a second language, and it was really, really hard. I felt like it was going to be a forever process and I was never going to be able to speak English. It just felt
So
impossible
hard.
when I can.
Mhm.
But I had a dream. I quickly realized I have to put myself through college. I have to, and then when I understood how college worked, I was like, okay, I have to become a Spanish teacher. That's what I wanted to do. And
Mhm.
it took me 10 years to reach my goal.
Yes. Uh-huh.
So I put myself through college, got my teacher certification, and then got to teach 16 years in the public school, teaching immersion and IB Spanish. And I really enjoy it. I really enjoy teaching to teenagers. Although some parents will ask me, how do you do it? I can only handle one and you have 120.
Yeah.
But it was something that I really, really enjoyed because I understood what it took to learn a second language.
Yes.
So it was really exciting to be able to not only reach my goal to become a teacher, but then to start teaching and really become that person that was helping others learn a second language.
Yeah, yeah, and it just makes our world a bigger and better place when we know several languages. So, Kareem, I want to make sure everybody caught that, like, your training is not only just as a teacher, but master's level teacher. And
Yes.
yeah, and that you were brave enough to teach in the school system for a long time. So,
Well, but let me tell you how it happened my master level. So I
yeah,
was teaching for
yeah,
16 years.
yeah.
And then in 2013, the online teaching idea started like becoming more relevant. And
Yeah.
my husband told me, you need to start teaching online. Now, imagine that was like in 2013. And I was like, I told him, like, there is no way I will ever teach online because
Mhm.
I need to see my students. I
Yeah,
need
yeah,
to see their faces. But
yes,
you know what? Then I quickly realized that education was moving online. So I told my husband, well, if I go and start teaching online, I need to understand how that works. How does my face is gonna show up in the computer? I could not even understand that.
yes.
How I gonna do it? So I went back to school and got my master's in curriculum and online learning. And
Mm,
when I was there, I realized, wow, those moments where, or the times where everything depended from one person, one teacher, was over. I
mhm,
understood that technology was going to revolutionize how you also learn a language, and the teacher was not going to be the only person able to teach a student how to speak a language, or a textbook or a word book. Yes, those are tools, but technology has really been allowing me to bring a good Spanish curriculum to the person's house. It has changed. So when you combine technology with homeschooling, it's
Mhm.
like the best, because you are driving your learning. You are driving how quick,
Yes.
how fast you want to learn a language.
Mhm. Mm. Yeah, and that's the joy of being able to learn online is it comes right to you. And for us who are homeschoolers, like that works in our whole world, to have it come right to us on our timetable. So thanks for the adventure. And hey, if it's any encouragement, it took you a few years to get all those degrees. I think it took me about 23 by the time I finished my master's. So,
Oh,
you
wow.
so there is no race to get our degrees. We do it in the time God gives us to do it.
Oh, thank you for the encouragement, because I am first generation immigrant. So I always felt like I was always behind in everything.
Mhm.
So it encouraged me to know that I was not the only one
Yeah.
taking, English classes forever.
Yeah.
Listen, when I finished my ESOL English classes, I was
Mhm.
celebrating like crazy, because I felt like, finally, I can take English like everybody else.
That is so cool. All right, now tell us how you decided to homeschool, because here you're teaching in a traditional school setting and you end up as a homeschool mom. So
I
how did that
know.
come about?
That was a crazy idea coming from my husband. And let me tell you how that crazy idea came, because it sounded crazy when the moment he told me one day, we were talking about future. We didn't have children.
Mhm,
And I told him, listen, I don't know about public school for our children.
mhm,
Maybe we can consider private school. And I'm gonna start looking into maybe switching to a private teaching. So
mhm,
when we have kids, we can all be in a private school. And then my husband told me, well, what about if the private school works for one and not for the other one? What are you going to do? And I was like, I don't know what I'm going to do, but I just didn't see any other way. And then he told me, in Bolivia, because he's Boliviano, in Bolivia, when missionaries from the United States go to Bolivia, they never send their kids to the Bolivian public school system. They keep their kids at home and they learn at home, and it works pretty well. And then I look at him so confused, and I was like, that sounds like a cult to me. And I cannot even imagine me
mhm,
teaching our future kids. But then he insisted, and I did some research, and I remember finding HEAB, my
mhm.
state
Yeah.
organization. They do conferences. And I
Mhm.
went to the first conference. My husband came with me in case I had a heart attack or something. And let me tell you, when we entered the convention center, my eyes were open, my
Mm,
mouth dropped. I could not believe what I was seeing. So many resources, so many
mhm,
opportunities. I was talking to the experts that wrote the
mhm,
curriculums, um,
mhm,
and then I said to my husband, "You're right. This could be the way to give our kids top notch education."
yeah.
And that's how it was. So I would listen. I My husband told me we're here only to see and discover homeschooling. I
Uh-huh.
already was ordering, curriculum for my number kids.
You caught the bug right there at the
Yes,
conference.
yes, yes. My husband was very like, I'm sorry, he could not understand why I wanted to buy curriculum, but I wanted because again, I have a master's in curriculum, so
Mhm.
curriculum is something that I just love. And
Yes.
I love comparing, understanding
Yeah.
methodologies. And I was so blown away by the opportunities that homeschooling bring to our children. For us, I don't know if because we were immigrants, education was a top priority.
Yes.
And I discovered that through homeschooling, the it's not about the parents' limitations, but it's about
Mhm.
our children's potential.
Oh my
And I
goodness.
quickly understood that. And I knew that it was not going to be a perfect journey. It has not been perfect. Two of our kids already are in college. But let me tell you, out of all the imperfections that we went through and the challenges, it has been the best experience for our children.
Mhm. Yeah, and I love that you said it's not about the parents' limitations; it's about the children's potential, and
Yes.
that just like makes my whole day. So you have three children,
Yes.
and two have already been through homeschooling and are in college. Is that right?
Yes, one is our engineer. She is graduating next year,
Oh,
and
congratulations!
then and she's already applying for to start her master's degree, and we're
Hmm.
excited about her journey. And also, we have our son that he went into business, and now he wants to focus on in entrepreneur, also sales and technology,
Oh,
and they both all it was for me fascinating that especially him. He's right now in California and doing an internship selling. And
oh.
every time he sells something in Spanish, he calls me, he sends pictures of the people that he sold something. And he's so excited. He's like, Mom, and I did it in Spanish.
Oh, your bilingual children. Okay, so all right, let's talk about becoming bilingual and how you are investing in helping parents and bilingual children. So,
Yes, in 2014, when I decided to focus on homeschool parents, I founded Spanish Educational Solutions, and I made it my mission to help parents and children learn Spanish better and helping them navigate the foreign language requirements, because the number one challenge parents have is like they don't know Spanish.
right.
And I do understand that. Like, if you when I was trying to figure out the math and the science. I don't know math. I don't know science.
Yeah.
I wanted to find somebody that was a math expert and a
Hmm.
science expert. So I took that responsibility and say, I will be the person. I will be the guidance so parents don't feel like they are in the dark. So I started creating my program. I started with Spanish 1, and also, I started my elementary program because I had one challenge. Vicky, my youngest daughter did not want to speak Spanish. Like, she refused to speak Spanish. And that was going to be a problem.
Yeah.
I was like, listen, I tried everything. I negotiated with her. I told her, if you don't speak Spanish, I will have no job because people will not believe in my program. And she was like, I don't care. I want to speak French. But so what I did is like, okay, let's do our Spanish elementary program together, and you're
Yeah.
gonna be my helper. And that's how I launched an elementary program that now I'm developing the second year because it has been so successful, because
Uh,
families that do my elementary program like
mhm.
becoming bilingual. Let's go back to that concept. Becoming bilingual is not a step process, it's a journey process, it's an
Mm.
ongoing process. Sometimes we want steps to get it over. But
Yes,
let me tell you, it's languages you never finish learning.
that's the truth.
And
Yes.
I'm pretty sure as we talk, I have made grammar mistakes. When I was speaking, I have an accent, but I have to be okay with being
Yes.
imperfect speaking
Yes.
English, because my goal is to communicate.
Yes.
So that has been basically the journey. Becoming bilingual is like, how can I help families start early? So I have an elementary program, but also how can I help teens that are homeschooling complete the language requirements? And when you teach a teenager, it's very different than when you teach an elementary kid. So having those two differences is very important, because learning should be a good experience. I don't want to say that children and teens are always going to be excited about learning
Yes.
Spanish, but
Yes.
I do know that children in general will remember how something makes them feel. So
Mhm.
every time I am doing a lesson, or I'm doing or updating a course, and thinking how this is going to make the student feel, because students are going to be attracted to do how if something makes them feel good, right, if they are seeing progress. So the
Yes.
first thing I want to advise parents when they start this journey is, even though maybe that you have limitations because it's language requirements, you have to finish in a year Spanish 1 or 2 or 3, right, because
Mhm.
you want to put it in the transcript. Remember that it's going to be an imperfect journey.
Yes. Yeah, and I love the idea that this is a journey, it's not steps. So you don't ever arrive. It's a long, long journey, and it is okay to be imperfect along the way. But the joy of giving children another language so that they can experience, well, they need, the high schoolers need it for sure, but even younger ones can experience the world in a bigger way because they have all kinds of words, not just English words. And
Yes.
that is so so rich and beautiful. All right, so I got a sidetrack question I want to ask. So your daughter, that was the youngest who wanted to learn French. So did she stick with French also? So Spanish, English.
Yes, yes. Right now she's in ninth grade and she's going to be studying Spanish 4 during ninth
Uh-huh,
grade,
uh-huh.
and she's gonna do French 3.
That is so
Yes,
good.
and it was a lot of it was an emotional, psychological challenge, because one thing about Hispanics is that Hispanics could be mean when we are between among family members, and she was the youngest,
Mhm,
and she speak with an accent, and people will correct her accent all the time. And one
mhm.
day, she put her arms around her waist and say, I am not speaking Spanish anymore. They need to speak English. But it was her way to saying, stop correcting me. I don't want to be corrected anymore.
Yeah.
So I understood. So what I told her was, well, you need to learn a language. That's not a choice. And then I never thought she was going to come up with a French idea. And it's like, oh well, so then I will learn French. I was like, French. So I scratched my head, but learning French
Mhm,
really helped her overcome the fear of speaking Spanish and
mhm.
having a better relationship with learning Spanish. So it worked well. Now she's trilingual.
Well, and I just can't emphasize enough how useful it is for children to learn multiple languages. And I know my just a silly sidetrack is, the Olympics are on, and whenever the French team wins, they play the national anthem, "Aux hommes, citoyens." And so when my oldest ones were in high school, they were taking
Mhm.
French. And
Mhm.
part of, having the cultural experiences is they learned the national anthem so they could sing it along with the rest of the audience there.
That's
Um,
great.
yeah, but so little things like that give joy. But in our world, we understand each other better with languages. So I'm so
Yes,
glad.
and I want to remind parents, Vicky, that learning a language is a human skill. It's not a
Mhm.
subject. So if we keep in mind that it's all about people, we
Yes.
will be more compassion. We
Mhm.
will be more patient with ourselves,
Mhm.
and we will not quit because we are gonna understand that what we're trying to do
Yeah.
is not just learn a language so we can say, "Oh, we are bilingual," but also because we want to connect with people and we
Yes.
want to relate with other cultures. So
Yeah.
yes, it is wonderful.
All right. So now I've got to do two things. One, I am so excited because you are starting a podcast, and I think it's
Yes,
the best thing. So I'm going to
thank
start with
you. You're the first person that I told outside. Like, so-
that. So this, like, we will be sharing links to that when it goes live, because it's going to be about becoming bilingual, and
yes.
it's so useful. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we're going to talk about your courses.
Yes. Well, it was born out of, 30 years of teaching Spanish. Can you
Hmm.
imagine? Okay, I already told you my age. So yes, and all. So, but just, learning through my students' experiences. So
Mhm.
I care about my students. I care about my families, and I know sometimes we want to quit, we want to give up, we get frustrated, we get anxious, we so many negative feelings. So I want to bring to the spotlight the process, the journey, that it's going sharing stories about how the people became bilingual,
Mhm.
sharing stories about bringing experts,
Yeah.
about specific things and challenges, because no, it's not easy. I understand
Yes.
that, but also learning about culture. What can we learn about the Hispanic culture that will bring more meaning to the journey of becoming bilingual? So I'm excited. So I will
Yes.
share with your public as soon as I have the link. And by the way, it's gonna be in English, so don't be scared. Like, oh, we don't speak Spanish. It's
Yeah.
gonna be in English, because I know that a lot of my parents don't know speak Spanish, but they are already in that journey, and so I want to make sure that I support those families that are in the journey, and I want to be there. Work with them, be their cheerleaders, and bring content that is going to keep them motivated in the process.
It's beautiful. Absolutely. I'm so excited about that. Okay. And now let's talk about your courses that you have. I mean, these are developed by an educator who has taught Spanish for decades. And so these are the students in your courses are learning at an expert level. So tell us about your program.
So there are two I answer to two needs. One is language requirements. So if you have a teenager, I will say 7 to 12, or maybe 8 to 12, depending of how mature your teenager is. I have a Spanish 1, 2, and I'm developing the 3 now. I give it live, but now I'm developing the independent one.
Okay.
And I offer that with live classes during September to May, and I offer also for independent students and self-paced students that don't want to be in the live class. I offer the course with teacher support. And also, Vicky, I'm so excited because more co-ops are using my program too. Because
Mhm.
my courses are
Uh-huh.
done for parents that do not speak Spanish,
Right.
that do not have the time to create lessons, do
Yeah.
not have the time to create testing, but they need a course program that will teach, give a strong foundation, will take students from level 1 to level 2 to level 3,
Mhm.
and they will have a grade at the end so they can put it in the transcript. So
Yeah.
my program serves those needs. But also, if you have a family and you have multiple ages, I have my elementary program that is for the whole family. Now, that is a different approach because
Yes.
my Spanish courses 1, 2, and 3, they address the grammar, they address testing, they
Mhm.
address deadlines, they address
Mhm.
assignments and practices, right?
Yes. Right.
But the elementary program does not, because we don't care about grammar, we care about language acquisitions during
Mhm.
those years. That is fun. Even the topics are fun. Like one of the topics is the farm. Can you imagine a teenager learning Spanish
Yeah.
using the farm vocabulary? They will roll their eyes and say, I don't want
Yes.
to do this. But
Yes.
little kids love that. They love
Yes.
learning about the farm, the market, the food, and all of that. Now, teenagers love to eat, so they love to learn about the food, but in a different
Yes.
way, right?
Yes. Right.
So I have solutions for families. So make sure to check
Mhm.
my website, and we're gonna put our website, my
Yeah.
website, in the show notes so they can see how they can get in touch with me, and explore more courses. But one thing that I'm doing more now also, because I'm giving parent training. So I am doing webinars. So parents can join one of my webinars, and I will walk them through a step-by-step process, teaching them how to approach elementary
Yeah.
learning, and how to approach the high school learning in the planning part. Because high school,
Yeah.
I love your podcast in your curriculum and everything you do, because you guys address the high school need. High
Yes.
school requires planning, and there
Yes.
are so many opportunities for
Yes.
your teen when you invest time in planning.
Yeah, I was following a webinar you did last month, and yeah, a huge attendance there. It was really, really helpful. So, all right. So we'll put links, and your website is Spanish Educational Solution.
It's Yes, but for the homeschooling
Yeah.
community, they can stop by homeschoolspanishcurriculum.com.
Homeschool Spanish curriculum.
And if you want to follow me on Instagram, just go to Spanish Educational Solutions. Or if you want to follow my personal journey, because I do also, there is another part of me where I do some homeschooling outreach to the Hispanics families in Spanish, talking
Yeah,
about homeschooling. So if you
yeah,
want to know more about that process, reach out at Morato.Karim on Instagram.
yeah. And that is, you have been so active in helping the local Hispanic communities with the homeschooling process and helping out at HSLDA also. So
Yes,
how
yes.
many
Yeah,
hats can Kareem Morato wear?
I don't know. Like she tell me, like every year, like I was telling you when we were before recording, and we are already planning to 2025.
Yeah,
So, but it is exciting to see how many Hispanic families are homeschooling.
yes,
Compared when I started my journey, I was
yes.
almost alone, but now so many Hispanics are waking up to the realization that
Mhm.
homeschooling is an option for them too.
Yeah. Well, I can remember, many decades ago when we first started homeschooling, and our seven sister Marilyn and I were leading a how to get started homeschooling workshop for our local community here in Delaware. And we looked at, there must have been like 150 parents in the workshop audience. And they all looked, like white, born in America, stuff. And Marilyn looked over at me and she said, "We got to do something about this."
And thank you so much because you guys are an organization that really have reached out to me and say, how can we help?
Yeah,
So any parent out there that knows a Hispanic family, reach out to them and just share the good news.
yeah,
Homeschooling is a good news because
it's a
many parents
good,
feel trapped that they don't have any choices. So when Hispanics can understand what homeschooling is about it in their language, it makes a difference. It makes a big difference.
it's marvelous. So we're going to put links in the show notes to all of Kareem's get in touch with, and because she's just a wonder of resources and encouragement. So thank you, Kareem, for being with us today.
Thank you so much for having me, Vicky. It's
Yeah.
always a pleasure talking to you.
We really enjoy each other. So, this has been the Homeschool High School podcast brought to you by Seven Sisters Homeschool.com and the Ultimate Homeschool Podcast Network. Thanks to Seth Tillman for editing and for Richie Soares for making transcripts. And we will see everybody next week.
Adios.